Someone you love has died, maybe recently, maybe years ago. Maybe you're still not sure you've fully processed it. And somewhere in the middle of that loss, you did something. You gathered, you cried, you brought flowers. You sat with the body longer than was practical. You said things out loud that felt incomplete. You did what every human culture on every continent throughout all of recorded history has done. But here's what nobody told you. You were also doing exactly what humans did 100,000 years ago, before civilization, before religion, before language, and the science of that discovery doesn't just tell us about them, it tells us something about the grief you are still carrying right now. Section 1. The oldest burial. In central Israel, inside a cave filled with fruit bats, archaeologists have been carefully removing dust from a discovery that changes everything. The cave is called Tinshemet. Since 2016, a team from Hebrew University has been excavating. Human remains inside. In 2025, they published what they found in the journal Nature Human Behavior. The remains date to between 100,000 and 110,000 years ago, and they were not simply left there. 5 early humans, each one carefully placed in a pit, each one arranged in the same fetal position, curled on their right side, hands interlaced beneath the head. Someone had done that, deliberately, with attention. Around and between the bodies, more than 500 fragments of red and orange ochre, a vivid pigment made by heating iron-rich stone to a precise temperature. The nearest ochre deposits were over 60 kilometers away. Someone traveled to get them. Someone brought them back. Someone placed them with the dead. Also found animal bones, shells, deer antlers, objects with no practical use, objects that could only mean one thing. These people mattered, even after they were gone. Professor Yossi Zeidner, who led the excavation, called it an amazing revolutionary innovation for our species. But here's what makes it even more important. This was not a single event. At 2 other Israeli caves from the same period, Skul and Kafze, archaeologists found nearly identical practices. Same positions, same ochre, same objects, sites separated by 100 kilometers, sharing the same ritual logic. 100,000 years ago, before agriculture, before cities, before the written word, humans were already learning how to say goodbye. Section 2. What burial requires. To understand why this is extraordinary, you need to understand what burial actually requires. Not physically, cognitively. To dig a pit, position a body carefully, travel days to bring meaningful objects. You need to understand that death is permanent. You need to believe the person still matters after they are gone. You need to coordinate with others who share that belief. And you need to imagine that what you do to the body means something beyond the moment. That is not instinct. That is symbolic thought. And finding it 100,000 years ago, before any of the cultural machinery we associate with it, means something profound. Ritual was not invented by civilization. Civilization was built on top of ritual. That already existed. The ceremony didn't come after the humanity. The ceremony was the humanity. Section 3. Were we the only ones? Here is where the story gets uncomfortable. At Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq, archaeologists found Neanderthal remains. 10 individuals, some showing signs of healed injuries. That would have required others to care for them. A one-armed individual, someone with advanced arthritis, someone nearly blind. These Neanderthals had been kept alive by their community. That alone was a revelation. Then in 2020, a new Neanderthal was uncovered in the same cave called Shanidar Z, found arranged in a cluster with others, in a position too deliberate to ignore. At La Chapelle-aux-Saints in France, a 13-year reanalysis confirmed it. A Neanderthal had been deliberately buried in a pit, protected from scavengers 50,000 years ago. Cambridge researcher Emma Pomeroy said the burials could hint at spiritual ideas, or at least compassion, care for the dead, and genuine feelings of loss. And then came Homo naledi, a small-brained hominin found deep in a South African cave. Brain capacity, less than a third of ours, with evidence of burial pits and symbols carved into cave walls. If confirmed, it pushes death ritual back 300,000 years. And it forces the question, if grief existed before big brains, what does that tell us about what grief actually is? Section 4. We are not alone in this. Grief is not uniquely human. Chimpanzee mothers have been observed, carrying their dead infants for weeks, sometimes months, continuing to groom them, refusing to let go. In 2018, an orca named Tahlequah carried her dead calf for 17 days across over 1,000 miles of Pacific Ocean. Elephants return to the bones of their dead. They touch the skulls with their trunks. They stay in silence for hours. Anthropologist Barbara King put it plainly: we humans don't own love or grief. These emotions are widespread in other animals. What this means is that grief is so fundamental to social life, so tied to attachment, to the bonds that hold groups together, that evolution has returned to it again and again across millions of years and dozens of species. Grief is not a malfunction. It is one of the oldest features of consciousness itself. Section 5. Your brain on grief. Modern neuroscience has now mapped what happens inside your brain when you lose someone, and what it reveals is that grief is not an emotion. It is a rewiring process. The brain builds detailed internal models of the people you love, models of where they are, what they would say, how they would respond. When someone dies, those models don't disappear. The brain keeps them. And because it keeps them, it keeps expecting them, looking for them, generating the feeling that they are somewhere nearby, just temporarily out of reach. That's why grief sometimes feels like waiting. That's why you reach for your phone to call someone who is gone. That's why a particular smell or a song can collapse the distance in an instant. Your brain is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was built to do, maintaining a connection that evolution said was essential, while slowly, painfully trying to update information it was never designed to receive. Section 6. Why flowers? At Raqefet Cave in Israel, dating back 14,000 years, archaeologists found impressions left in sediment beneath the bodies of the dead, impressions from aromatic plants. Mint, sage, the oldest known evidence of flowers placed in a grave. Psychological research shows that flowers trigger positive emotional responses on a physiological level, responses that transcend cultural programming. We don't learn to respond to flowers. The response precedes the learning. And when researchers asked why early humans reached for flowers in the presence of death, the answer was simple. They were doing what you do, not decorating, responding, reaching for something beautiful in the presence of something incomprehensible, trying to say, you were here, and the world was better for it. The next time grief finds you, remember this: what you feel is not weakness. It is not dysfunction. It is the oldest software in the human brain, doing exactly what it was built to do. 100,000 years of humans felt exactly what you are feeling. Every single one of them did something with it. They buried someone carefully. They placed something beautiful beside them. They stayed. You come from those people. That is the oldest thing about you. Subscribe, because the story of who we are is still being excavated.